today we have a very exciting interview with one of my favorite astrologists to follow on Instagram. Her name is Ainslie Faust, and I'm really excited to talk about Mercury Retrograde for the new year 2016, and she's going to be giving us a lot of really great information. And first off, Ainslie, is there anything you'd like to tell about yourself and your background?
Oh, thanks, Sophia. I have a background. I have a master's in counseling and a PhD in philosophy and religion. I originally wanted to be a Jungian analyst, but got sent down another path. But I studied a lot of mystery religions and Jung. I've read the collected works of Jung, and I've just been fascinated by astrology for many years. I started my daily blog that I use street art in 2013. So I blog every day, get up at 6 a.m. I've never missed a day. I tried to stop once, but I couldn't do it. And I also do readings via Skype in person, and I have the sign up for that on my website, astroainslie.com.
Awesome. And we're going to be sharing your website link in the description of this video, so you can look below to see her amazing website. And I really recommend following her on social media, so you also get reminders about all the new updates on what's happening day by day. And I know I love her updates. I always look forward to them. So I was really excited to ask her to come and talk a little bit about something I get asked about all the time, which is Mercury retrograde. And that is really important because I work with writers and entrepreneurs and creators, and they want to make good progress on what they're working on. And a lot of times, Mercury retrograde comes up as one of those reasons why they feel stuck or they're feeling a lot of feelings. And so I wanted to get your insight on what is going on and what's going to happen next year. So the first question so many people have, which is a little bit more beginner, but we're getting a little bit more advanced as well, is what does it mean to be in retrograde, and what is this thing that is happening in the sky?
Well, first of all, let's just say a little bit about Mercury as a planet, as a planetary archetype. Mercury is the mind. It's how we communicate. It's also mediation. If you think of Mercury, the god, Mercurius, he had the little wings on his sandal.
I love that guy.
He was a bit of a trickster. He was born, he was stealing cattle. He made the first lyra for Apollo. So Mercury, and in alchemy, Mercury is sort of like the whole process. So Mercury is the intellectual kind of trickster figure that is our mind and how we communicate. It rules everything with moving parts. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's when it's in the apparent backward motion in the sky, because astrology was created when we thought the Earth was the center of the universe, not the sun.
Okay.
So experientially, when we look at the heavens, when it looks like it's going backwards. So it's the most well-known of the retrograde planets. All the planets go retrograde at different times, but Mercury, it's very regular. Generally, it happens 3 times a year. Once in a while, we'll get 4. This year we've got coming up, it's going to be 3 again. Okay. So it's classic for miscommunications. It's generally like really bad for signing contracts, starting new enterprises. So you want to avoid that if you can, or like purchasing a car or a computer. It's very good for anything with a re in front of it. Redoing, re-editing. One of my favorite Mercury retrograde stories was I was living in Florida, and I went down the street and somebody had turned the stop sign upside down. The presidential election that got reversed, that was the day Mercury was stationary.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like things like that. People also will seem to often get into like little fender benders, but okay, we know all about that. But it's very positive for reversing decisions. I love the way old friends always appear when Mercury's retrograde. You suddenly hear from them, or you have an urge to contact old friends. Lost objects will reappear, and it's a good time to go inside and really think about what you want in life from you. because a lot of times the snafus that we get into with Mercury retrograde, it's because we're charging forward, you know, with our expectations. And you really have to kind of step back from that when Mercury's retrograde and not freak out, just deal with whatever comes about. And again, just for writers especially, it's fabulous for writing and editing and revising.
Oh, I love that. I love that. First off, I have to say, I love that just like in your daily posts, you talk about like what the planet archetype is and like kind of what the big meaning is before you go into what this means today. And I noticed you kind of did that just there. So that was really awesome. And you also talked about the visual of the stop sign bending. And it reminds me of, you know, you always include a picture of the street art, the graffiti. And it's just so cool how you combine those things. But yeah, and as a writer, I actually have really come in the last year to really like Mercury retrograde because of what you said. And as an idea person, it really forces me to look at my old ideas and not just all the shiny new ones, and to really complete things and to think about why has this been stuck, and whatever the reason was, I will figure it out during Mercury retrograde. It's like kind of like a good beta testing time when you find all the bugs that you need to smooth out. And it just seems like I'm more in the mood for that during Mercury retrograde. And so I've also been told, and I wanted to run this past you, I've been told that the sign that Mercury is retrograde within can impact the way that it affects us, or the tone of it for that particular cycle. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, if the retrograde is hitting one of your personal planets, you're definitely going to be more impacted by it, or if it's hitting your natal Mercury. But then the planets have a different character in all of the signs. So the first Mercury retrograde, we're actually, before I talk about that, maybe I better talk about the 3 periods.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Yeah, because the first thing we hit is the shadow period. So remember, Mercury's going to go backwards, right? So it's going to be starting at 19, on December 19th is when it's going to go into its post-shadow, which is going to be when it's going to be at 14 Capricorn, right? So the minute Mercury hits 14 Capricorn, it starts the shadow. Okay. Because that's where it's going to stop. Once it goes retrograde and start going direct, it's going to be at 14 Capricorn.
Oh, interesting.
On December 19th, Mercury hits 14 Capricorn. We hit the pre-shadow, the shadow period. So it's sort of like when you look at planetary transits. So you know your natal chart is a static configuration. A transit is the aspect the sky makes to that static configuration. So a lot of times, like with the Jupiter transits can last about 2 weeks, or they can last a year. And it depends, because with the transits, it starts at like 3 before and 2 after. So if Jupiter happens to go over your planet and then retrograde back, then it's kind of like being impregnated. Even though you feel the transit more intensely when it's close in orb, for the entire period, you have the transit. So it's kind of the same thing with Mercury retrograde. It's sort of in whenever it's within those degrees where it's going to be. So
right, because it's going to retrace its steps. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. That's the point where it will go direct. That's where the shadow starts. And more, the more I notice things from the day it hits the shadow. You know, sometimes I think maybe I should pay less attention, but so it's going to hit the shadow. So this time it's going to be in 2 signs, which are quite different from each other. So it starts the shadow period in Capricorn. Capricorn is Earth. It's ruled by the planet Saturn, which is like the senex, death, separation, taxes, old age, bones. I could go on and on. And it's so it likes to start things. So Capricorn, Mercury's the mind, communication, right? Well, in Capricorn, it's practical. It wants to see physical results. It wants things written down. And also, Capricorn is very ambitious. Capricorn wants its due. Now, so it's going to start there. That's the shadow. And then it's going to hit the storm. What are the dates on the storm here? Right around the 1st of January. And then it actually goes retrograde on the 5th at 1 Aquarius. So it actually goes retrograde in Aquarius, but then it's going to go back to Capricorn. So Aquarius is air, which is a communication sign. It's fixed, a little bit, the fixed axis is a little bit more, they don't like to change things that often. And it's, Aquarius is very innovative, exciting. They like utopias, that kind of thing. So it's going to shift from one energy to the other. And also, if you have planets in early Aquarius, right where it starts to retrograde, you're definitely going to feel it more.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, and what happens is it hits the storm when it starts to slow down.
Okay.
And the most intense day is the day that it goes retrograde and the day that it goes direct, because it's stationary, which means it stops and it stays at the same degree for a day or two. So whenever it gets slower, we generally feel the effects more intensely, and then as it starts to speed up, not as much.
Okay, so the middle period is not as intense as when it goes direct and when it goes retrograde.
Yes, yes.
And when it goes direct?
So the first retrograde is going to be in Aquarius at 1 degree 3 minutes on January 5th. And it's going to go direct at 14 Capricorn on January 25th. And then after it goes direct, it's going to go through those same 2 cycles. It's going to go through the storm as it starts to speed up, and then it will go through the post-shadow period until it gets to where it went retrograde again at 1-3 Aquarius, which will be on February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Wow, on Valentine's Day.
We're basically in Mercury retrograde from the 19th, Valentine's Day. Hello, thank you.
Yeah, and this is big because people mostly pay attention to when it officially is retrograde and direct, and they don't always recognize that the shadow is a part of it and can affect them.
Mine are those days for me, thus the curses of having a daily blog.
Yeah, you remember, yeah.
Looking at the minutia of the heavens, and then you see everything.
Yes. And so you mentioned that, well, awareness can be helpful, you know, and as you were speaking about the signs and how if your planet is there, that really that really like demonstrates how, you know, coming to you for like a personal reading could really be helpful to someone to figure out not just how the retrograde might affect them, but maybe other things happening through the year next year, or, you know, things going on with them as a person, an individual person with their own set of, you know, own set of planets that were in a certain place when they were born. That would be really good information to go to someone like you to find out about. Maybe it's a personal Christmas present to ourselves. But well, I know a little bit about it, but so not as much as you do.
Here is really good too, because because astrology, people love to predict the future, but a lot of times astrology is the most useful in looking at our past and understanding about ourselves. First of all, let me say a little something about my blog, because people may be used to reading sun sign astrology. Sun sign astrology, they just take your sun sign and they put it on the ascendant, and then they're predicting according to planets going through the houses. So my astrology blog, I strictly talk about what's going on in the heavens for everybody between the planets. And I don't do sun sign astrology. I like to do individual charts. Because your individual chart, first of all, to understand your birth chart is like, it's a map of your personality, of your soul. You know, you come in with certain tendencies and they're always the same. Now, it's not deterministic, because the theory is, as in Carl Jung said, that the more deeply we know ourselves, the less we are puppets of the archetypes. So as you get to know your chart, and many people, they recognize stuff when it's like, oh yeah, I know that about myself. It actually gives you more options there's nothing in our personalities that's wrong or right or that we're ever going to get rid of. We can only learn to understand it better and express it in a different way. So if I do a reading, first we look at your chart and the particular meaning, and then we look at transit, which adds this other layer of timing in your life. And if there's, like, we just finished the Uranus-Pluto square the last several years, and that was a huge, that's like the shaping of our times. In the 60s, it was Uranus-Pluto conjunction. We went through the square, which could be scare. It's revolution and change. So if that hit somebody's personal chart, personal planet on their chart, they would have really, really felt it. But there's lots of
Pluto-Uranus square?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I work with somebody who, you were talking about having a planet in that retrograde area, and she had Pluto in it last time, and it was a whammy for her.
Oh my low battery light just came up.
Oh no, well, we're wrapping up, so it's good timing. So this was just sort of a taster of all the questions that we could really get into with astrology, because of course Mercury is just one of the planets, and I was looking at, maybe I'll get you back around, you know, before April, because I know there's a ton of them going retrograde in April next year. So there's so many things to keep track of, and really it's a whole body of work. And so I want to recommend Ainslie as a resource for people to follow her on a daily basis, read her blog, keep up with everything she's doing, because it's just so nice to have this amazing little thing to read to kind of give you some insight into what might be challenging or supportive today. And it makes a lot of sense. And sometimes it's really validating, like, no wonder I've been feeling this way. Thank you, Ainslie.
So much for having me, Sophia. It was really fun.
Thank you so much. Yay. It's like hanging out with someone, you know, I admire all the time. So it's been a pleasure. So thank you so much. Oh. And if anyone would like to see her blog, I'll be putting it in the link below. I just wanted to remind you. And did you want to say anything else before we sign off?
Happy holidays, everybody. Take good care of yourself.
Yay. And thank you for watching. If you like this, please recommend this interview to a friend, and feel free to post it on social media, or send it, or like it, or subscribe. And let us know in the comments if you have any other questions that we could maybe answer in the future, or I could direct over to Ainslie. And make sure to go visit her blog and get on Instagram or Facebook and follow her. All right, that's all for today, and hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. See ya.